Hello, people of the internet. Last year, I bought a couple of converter boxes on eBay to be able to connect my Commodore 64 to a modern LCD monitor. They were all rather cheap, and because of that, I didn't expect miracles. It is a well-known fact that with these cheap units, it's pretty much hit or miss in regards of quality. Of course, every single of my units were utter shit, as you can see in my other video, and one didn't work at all. I have seen numerous videos where people have had good results with the same converters I bought, but as I said, quality varies greatly depending on what components and chipset are used in a particular item, so I'm determined to get one that's actually useful. And now I have. A few weeks ago, I was browsing the C64 group on Facebook, where a Dutch guy named Mark Hitbury posted some photos of a cheap converter he bought from the Chinese site AliExpress. He had connected his Commodore 64, and quickly gained a lot of comments because of the for the price very decent quality. Funny thing is his box was 100% identical to my non-working piece of China crap back then. I studied his photos in great detail and took a chance and ordered one as well. It was $26 and included free shipping, so I thought, what the hell, if I get one again that doesn't work, it's no major loss. Been there, done that, you know. It came in the mail a few days ago, and I want to make a more in-depth review and some up-close samples that's more thorough than some Facebook photos. For starters, it wasn't packaged very well. It just came in this plastic envelope with no padding material or bubble wrap, just the converter, a US power plug and a European adapter as a side dish. I don't trust those cheap Chinese adapter plugs, so I used one of my many spares from my other converters. It outputs HDMI in either 720 or 1080p, so I used an adapter cable to connect it to an older VGA screen. I had no hopes whatever, based on my previous experiences, so I didn't connect any input devices until I was sure that the monitor at least reacted to the damn thing. And lo and behold, it turned on. I connected my Amiga 1200 using an RGB video to SCART cable, powered it on and waited anxiously for Workbench to load. There were some jail bars on the black screen, and we're still loading, and boom, a nice and surprisingly sharp image. Well, not pixel perfect sharp, of course, but definitely sharp enough to be acceptable, sharp enough to work with programs with small text, and sharp enough for watching demos, and I'll try out some games a little later to check for latency. My monitor doesn't support 1080p, so I'll only be demonstrating it in 720p in this video, but I believe that if you scale up an SD PAL or NTSC signal, it's always better to scale the least possible amount to minimize lag and blur. I'm sure most of you already know how this thing looks, so I'll just go over it briefly. There are 3 buttons on the front of the unit. One is for switching input between HDMI and SCART. One is for switching between 720 and 1080, and the last one is for selecting PAL or NTSC input. There is also a power LED, and of course the HDMI output connector, and 2 audio out connectors for coax and jack plugs. On the back is an HDMI input connector, and a SCART one, along with a 5-volt power socket. On the inside is of course Circuit Town, as you would expect. I am by no means an electronics expert, so I'll just show some pictures for you to decide if it's a particular chipset or whatever. There are 3 ICs, but 2 of them doesn't have anything printed on them. The third one is made by ITE and says IT66121FN, 15138XG, AC1DFC, and as far as my research goes, it's a low power transmitter with HDMI 1.4, maybe that one also handles upscaling and what have you. I have no idea, so you be the judge. Well, on with the actual quality. Like I said, I'm using an Amiga RGB to SCART cable, so I have the best possible source to begin with. When booting up with a black screen, you can clearly see vertical lines and a little bit of noise, but when there is actually something on the screen, they practically disappear. Since we are dealing with an analog signal, the image of course isn't crystal clear, but I guess the box is smoothing out the edges as good as it can, kinda like the Scale 2x video setting in the Vice C64 emulator. There is a faint halo around the text and other high contrast elements, but that actually make the image seem a bit sharper. The deinterlacing is overall very good, as there are no visible hen's teeth. However, you can see there are some slight artifacts when moving the mouse slowly, but it isn't noticeable unless you sit very close to the screen. As I am located in Europe, my Amiga is a 50Hz PAL model, but since my monitor decides to go for 60Hz, scrolling of course isn't perfectly smooth, as this crackle shows. As far as latency goes, there is only a few milliseconds delay, so playing games is no problem at all. I am playing a few rounds of Bubble Bobble here so you can see how noticeable it is. Using composite instead of RGB video of course degrades the quality quite a bit. I'm using a cheap composite to SCART adapter for this, and as you can see, there's a lot more fringing, bleeding and ghosting, but that was to be expected. At least this converter does a way better job with composite than any of the other ones I bought. I would show you how it handles my Commodore 64 as well, but I currently don't have a SCART cable for that, so I'll just show you some photos from Mark's Facebook post. Based on how the Amiga looks in all of its composite glory, the C64 should be similar, and we all know that's not a pretty sight. I think that about wraps it up for this video. If you want to have a go at it yourself, I'll leave an AliExpress link for this exact converter in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.